A long off-season kept many wondering, many pondering, when does Pit Stop TV see the return of open-wheel racing with IORL? Will 2022 see the 13th season of virtual racing for the group established in 2013 at all? Will Zach Buchanan back up his title? Welcome to Long Beach, California, site today to the first round of IORL Season 13, brought to you by everyone at the International Online Racing League. Hi, I'm Major Cardinale IV, joined this evening by JP Costa and Caleb Gladney, and we're excited to bring you all coverage of tonight's 13th annual IORL Grand Prix of Long Beach. We left off in Southern California some time ago, months ago in fact, back in 2021, with the crowning of Zach Buchanan as Season 12 champion, and now we open Season 13 at one of the single best places for open wheel racing, JP, the streets of Long Beach. Scott Rambler took top honors nearly 1 year ago, but isn't here this evening to back up his title in this race. That leaves a wide open door for anybody in this field, truly anybody, to go ahead and step up and take gold today at Long Beach.
Absolutely, Andrew, but that's not going to be an easy task. Obviously, these drivers will have to tame the mighty machines that is going to be the Indy cars, and obviously around one of the trickiest yet most beautiful and most challenging courses on the iRacing platform. Obviously, we've been here last night on Long Beach. We saw how treacherous and how difficult and how unforgiving Long Beach is, and obviously these drivers are going to have an extra challenge by driving the Indy car, but I cannot wait to see what these drivers have in store. I'm very, very excited to see the Indy cars once again, and well, I cannot wait.
Now, Caleb, we've seen Long Beach before. In fact, all three of us, we've got Long Beach broadcasts under our belt. And if you go back nearly a year ago, we had Long Beach with IRL a year ago. This is not necessarily a complete stranger. These drivers, they have some experience here. Some might be a little bit new. But that meshing of so many great things is why a venue like Long Beach is so spectacular to open up a season. You have so many new things happening, so much going on, and it fits right in the streets here.
There's no doubt about that, Andrew. And coming here for my second time, it's a beautiful street course, street circuit here, and it's challenging, as JP mentioned. So the drivers for the first race of the year are going to have their hands full a little bit with a tricky street circuit, but nonetheless one of the favorites to come to on the schedule.
And JP, when you think open wheel racing, whether it's Formula 1, Formula E, or some derivative thereof on the Formula Ladder, or even IndyCar, Indy Lights, or some derivative there are so many street courses that come to mind that I think evoke so many emotions for racing fans. And, of course, Monaco, I think, is the world standard. You've got Long Beach, obviously, fits in there. The streets of Detroit have been fantastic for IndyCar. The streets of Toronto, you've got the New York Grand Prix that have gone on for Formula E, and, of course, it's just so many courses throughout the course of history, throughout motorsport, that have been such great places to go racing in the streets of cities. It's always a lot of fun. We even threw in the streets of Chicago as kind of a fantasy track, what could be potentially here soon in the world. And Long Beach, then, again, it's a great way to open things up, but it's synonymous with open wheel racing.
Oh, absolutely. I guess when you think about Long Beach, I personally tend to think about IndyCar. It's just the first race series, I guess you can say, that comes here. It comes to mind. And obviously, you can take a look at the circuit as well. It's kind of challenging. Obviously, being a street course, it's going to be unforgiving. It's not going to have a lot of runoff areas. Although I do think Long Beach is a bit more forgiving than others when we talk about runoff, but it's still very challenging. You can see turn one, that heavy braking zone under bumps. You really have to get the car slowed down and under massive precision. Turns 2 and 3, the fountain section, it's going to be really tricky. Then you come down into turn 4 and 5, two quick right-handers, and then you got a small straightaway into turn 6, 7, and 8. We saw how difficult those corners can be yesterday, Andrew. And then you go to the quick back straightaway to the final sector, which we all know it's, I guess, the slowest and yet one of the trickiest ones on the racetrack.
You can see already cars getting up to speed, getting some practice laps under their belt. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first half, anyways, of the 2022 IORL schedule. And there's a little bit to explain here. This is the Spring Cup schedule. IORL, for the first time, is splitting into two halves, Caleb, and that means we get two kind of subcategories of racing, two kind of sub-championships, if you will. It gives drivers an extra little incentive to race a little bit more in the spring, even if they can't in the fall, and vice versa. If they can commit to the fall, and maybe not the spring, it still gives them that incentive to turn up in the fall and run for each 9 races, whatever half they can focus on, or maybe all 18 races, a record now in IORL, I do believe, of the most races they've had in a season, at least here on iRacing in some time. We open things tonight, of course, as has been mentioned so many times, Long Beach. It's Chicagoland next week, March 9th, 2022. We will not have coverage from Chicagoland. At least we don't plan to. Maybe we could. Barber on March 16th, then it's Phoenix, Austin, Michigan for that kind of middle chunk of the portion, I guess. Texas, Indianapolis Grand Prix, and Indianapolis 500, they wrap up the back end of this. So is what you can kind of see here, what I kind of mentioned is there's subsections even of the subsection. You have races 1, 2, and 3 back to back to back, then an off week. Then it's races 4, 5, and 6 back to back to back, then an off week. Then it's 7, 8, and 9 back to back to back, and then a series of weeks off before we come back in the fall. I like the way this schedule is structured, and I really like this Spring Cup schedule. You get great classic IndyCar tracks like Long Beach, like Barber, even Phoenix, Circuit of the Americas, Michigan, and obviously Indianapolis. Throw in Texas and Chicagoland for a couple of great ovals, and you're going to have a good spring.
Yeah, no doubt. There's a lot of great ovals in these first 9 races. You talked about Chicagoland, you got Michigan, Texas, Phoenix. You throw all those together, and you're looking at a pretty stout first 9 races. But you mentioned how they've kind of split this schedule up, where 9 in the first half and 9 in the second half, and this gives these drivers a little bit of chance to focus here and just plan on, I'm going to run the best 9 races I can and shoot for that goal instead of trying to collectively put together 18 races. So right now the goal is these first 9 races, and it kicks off right here at Long Beach.
And we'll talk more about points and everything as the season goes on. We do plan to have more coverage of the Spring Cup and hopefully even more of the Fall Cup as the year goes on. We'll be kind of intermittent here. We'll check in for some very important races and obviously be right back here in the month of May. Indianapolis is going to be a lot of fun. We look forward to seeing how that entire month of racing goes this year with the International Online Racing League. JP, let's get down to it then. Practice is underway. We've already seen some cars in the background. Bobby Krug, he's fastest, and he is certainly one of the strongest drivers in this series year in, year out, followed closely by Reed Sweeney. Now, we're not going to see any cars on track now. This is actually the point in time where these drivers have their drivers meeting. You can see we're in the final 5 minutes of practice here, so everybody's in the pit lane. All 18 drivers that are checked in are in the pit lane, and this gives us a good chance then to go through and look at some paint schemes. There's a lot of great ones.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess this is one of our favorite parts, Andrew. We love looking at paint schemes. We love giving the artists that created the paint schemes, a bit of attention. And obviously, they just look so good. You can see a bit of red and black with Reed Sweeney's car, the number 9. You can kind of see the McLaren just ahead of him. It's some really interesting liveries all around, and I guess it shows a bit of the personal side of the drivers as well. Obviously, the livery that you put in your car is going to reflect a bit of your personality. If you're just like, let's not shine a little bit more, but appear a little bit more on camera. If you like to be a little bit more discreet, it brings that personal side, and I feel like we can all, I guess, agree and kind of connect more with the drivers.
Yeah, of course, this is how we identify drivers on the racetrack, Caleb, and, you even mentioned it before we got going here. The numbers are small on road cars, be it GT cars where they have the number boxes on the doors, or even Indy cars where they are certainly much smaller than on stock cars. So this is how we identify drivers throughout the course of a race, and not just us, but everybody watching as well. This is how we learn a driver and kind of learn a bit of their personality before we even see them turn laps on the racetrack.
Yeah, I mean, these sponsors and these paint schemes definitely stick out as a way to remember these drivers as we shoot back to the field. And I got to say, there's been quite a few that I've already fallen in love with a bit so far on this broadcast. So excited to see how things shake out. Obviously, look at that beautiful Sunoco paint scheme, even more throughout the field. So and it's exciting to see all these, and it's a good chance to get a look at these cars before the show kicks off, just sitting there, and it gives a true beauty to the look of these cars and how they're built and how they're painted up and everything in between.
There are, it looks like, 18 drivers checked in. Now, I think one of them was actually checked in for a moment here, JP, and decided later that, or I guess mentioned later that he can't actually commit to the race this evening, so we might only have 17, but still, that's a pretty good field to get this season started, and really, you don't need a whole lot more than that. If you can get close to about 20 cars, which is about what we have this evening, that's really what you're looking for in a race like this. You don't need any record-setting number, and not that it was bad racing last night with North American Racing League, but we saw 40 cars. They can meet each other very quickly.
Oh, absolutely. That's the danger of having, just way too many cars. Not way too many cars, but, just a large amount of cars on the racetrack. But yeah, 17, 18, whatever number we're going to have today is going to be fantastic. It's going to give, I guess, an opportunity, Andrew, not only for us to finally go through the qualifying session, each and every single driver's in their starting positions as we're we couldn't really do it for the past month or so, I guess, of road racing, but it's gonna be fun as well. And obviously, you're putting the track temperature. It's quite different than the one we had last time out.
Yeah, the track temp is rather high, and look at the winds as well, coming down in a hurry, but only down to 17 miles an hour. Now, in the streets of Long Beach, I'd imagine in real life you probably get some Venturi effects, some wind tunnels through the buildings. I don't know how much that's going to be in effect this evening in the sim, but those are certainly very high wind speeds, and that track temp, 113 degrees. It's rather toasty. We've had some direct sunlight certainly baking down in SoCal this afternoon, getting ready for this race. 80 degrees in the air as well. It's decently warm. In fact, that would feel nice, I think, just about now, getting into March, and spring is on the way. That would feel pretty nice right now, even for us, Caleb. I know it's not too cold down here in the southeast, but still, 80 degrees would be nice to kind of thaw out a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's not the best weather down here right now, but it's not the worst we've seen. But I would sure like to have what it's like out in Long Beach right now. Beautiful sunny skies, 80-degree weather.
Minus the wind, maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say they could keep the wind there in Long Beach. I mean, that's some pretty hefty wind we're going to be seeing this evening so far in this race.
Yeah, we'll see if that actually impacts these cars. Of course, they are very aero-sensitive. They are open-wheel Indy cars with a lot of downforce, big front and rear wings, but I'm not sure that it's going to play too big of an impact for these guys this evening down on the streets of Southern California. Then qualifying, that's going to open up now. 10 minutes for these drivers to get a few laps in. And already we're going to see who's fast, maybe who's a little behind, and who needs to really get working on themselves for today's racing. Here's a look at Jake Walsh. He's one of the first. In fact, he is the first to get into his car, but has not rolled off yet. Spencer Ray in the number 6 has the car on and is rolling.
Yeah, this is the time, Andrew, where the heart starts beating a little bit faster. You know, the nerves start racking up a bit. Looks like Spencer Ray. It looks like he told a little bit. You can see now Walsh waiting on his car, Krug as well. So this is the time where you just need to put your nerves down. You need to, just get in that rhythm, get in that momentum, get in that mind space to just, put the perfect lap in. Obviously, these drivers are going to have a few tries, but, with practice, with those 5 minutes that we've had of drivers' meetings, that's going to bring the confidence level maybe just a tiny little bit down. So whoever can get the confidence clicked in as early as possible might have an advantage in qualifying.
Blake Galloway getting onto the racetrack very slowly. Jake Walsh getting a little bit quicker out there. In fact, he's already through, it looks like, no, he's coming up to turn number 1. And so we'll see these guys get these tires up to temperature as well. It looks like Jake Walsh going to opt for reds here in qualifying, and that's another topic of conversation. We don't get very many cars with different tire compounds on the iRacing.com service, Caleb, but the IndyCar is one of them now with the reds, the red alternates, and the blacks, the primaries. So if you are a bit new to IndyCar, and I'm sure there are plenty of you guys out there that might watch this, whether it's live or later on, that might not know yet, the alternates, the reds, they have a bit more grip. They're a softer compound, but that means they wear out faster, so they'll feel nice for a little while before those tires wear out, and then they're going to start to feel a little bit worse. Now, with a track temp that's so high, honestly, you might opt for the primaries here, the black tires, maybe. That's a big maybe. It depends on how these setups are feeling and how iRacing has kept up on these tire compounds lately, but I would certainly expect to see reds on just about every single car. I doubt anybody's going to go for the blacks. I'm certainly saying, though, that it is maybe a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, the reds just have a little bit more grip than the rest of the tires that they can have right now. And for these qualifying laps where you're only running here 2 to 3 laps, you want as much grip as possible. And if that's what these red tires can give you, that's what you're going to go with. But I could see, like you said, with it being a hot racetrack, you don't want to be in your second or third qualifying lap and perhaps lose so much grip that you'd rather have those black tires. But certainly something to watch out for. Definitely not maybe a tire that you want for a long run, but with these short runs in qualifying, so far from the cars we've seen, all running red tires.
On board here with Matt Skipper, Grant Palmer in car number 30 as well on the racetrack, sporting the red alternates, and I really do think we're going to see everybody on alternates. That would be what you would absolutely expect. I'm just concerned if anybody does go out here and plan to run extra laps, maybe you go for the black primaries, and especially if you're not going for pole in your qualifying run, maybe run the alternate or the primaries rather, and run some extra laps. That way you don't have as much tire fall off. But here we go, Spencer Ray, back end of his first flying lap here, JP. And this is where you get to a part of racetrack that is just so tough to execute lap in, lap out. The back end of the course, certainly turn 9 here, then it's 10 back around to the left, and 11 for the hairpin.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the trickiest part. You can see how much the car is it's essentially jumping under the bumps, Andrew. We saw the Cup cars yesterday, so we saw how much the suspension was just holding onto the cars. Obviously, with Formula cars, this is much different. It looks like Ray finishes up his first lap. He goes to 19.2, which is a good banker. Obviously, so far, it's the fastest and only banker so far we've seen, so not a lot to compare, but it's already way quicker than the Cup cars we had yesterday.
Yeah, that's a 109. Now, if we bring something up again, actually, let's bring the ticker on down. Go back to the track map. The IndyCar qualifying lap record. Granted, this was a different generation of IndyCar. This is back to the Dallara DW12. The record here is set by Joseph Newgard in 2018 in, it was a 107.551. So, I mean, that's blazingly quick, especially compared to these guys. And, of course, that's where the team can tinker with the car and do anything they want, Caleb. So with these fixed setups, we're going to see certainly times a little bit slower, but still very quick. 109s already, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get a few 108s before the session is done.
Yeah, I mean, 109s right now, and as you mentioned, 108s. But although the times might be a little bit slower, qualifying is still so important, especially at a track like this where track position can be king here. You know, it's going to be difficult to make passes here. You're going to have to definitely set those passes up and try your best. And, you know, qualifying can maybe prevent you from having to get back in the mess if you can put down a pretty good lap. So I would expect these drivers to be all in right now in qualifying just because of how important this track position really can be.
And here's a driver on the black primary tires, Donnie Staubitz, car number 13. I'm actually a little bit surprised by this considering he went out a little bit later, but he does have one lap in. And it is the slowest of anybody out there, so that shows you the reds are the way to go if you want that lap time. But if you want to get a little bit extra just practice out here and be a little bit safe with your qualifying run, I like this. If Don is going to be a little bit unsure about how he might go for the start of this race, go ahead and run the primaries, put yourself a little further deep in the field and get this experience on the primaries, because you might have to use them at some point in this race, depending on how potentially cautions fall. We shouldn't see too many full course yellows, if any, but we could see them.
Yeah, absolutely. You touched upon a point that I was going to mention. Obviously, running the blacks, you know, right now in qualifying, that's really going to, you know, hurt him a little bit in qualifying. The pace is definitely not going to be there. As we now look at Palmer going with a 1:8.3, that's absolutely blazing fast. And it looks like he's already done with his qualifying. I mean, that lap time was insane. But quickly coming back to the black tires, you know, obviously in qualifying, that's going to hurt him. Those tires just don't have, you know, nearly as much grip as the reds, but obviously, Andrew, you mentioned it's going to be good practice for the race. You know, at one point, I assume some of these drivers will take the black tires maybe for strategy, so it could be good practice to already have a few laps and see how the tires and the car will react, maybe even on just the first 2, 3, 4 laps.
Reed Sweeney across the line goes a 1:07.741. How about that? That is quick. That is nearly Joseph Newgarden's record lap time. I didn't think we'd be touching that lap time in these cars today, but boy, Reed Sweeney is on it in qualifying, Caleb.
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about 109s, and then we talked about the last generation of car that Joseph Newgarden put the time down with, and then with these fixed setups, a 1:07.741 is a blazing fast lap. We could even see quicker, where, you know, there's still some drivers that are making time right now with 2 minutes and 50 seconds left in this qualifying session. But Sweeney right now at the top of the charts, and that's a time that's going to be tough to beat here as we roll on through qualifying.
Bobby Krug out there as well. Now, he paced practice. He's in at a 1:08.155 so far, getting awfully close to that blend line out of pit lane, but I would expect the 51 car to be a bit faster here on lap 2, JP, but that was a bit wide. That was pushy there out of the fountain.
Yeah,
Ooh,
that's
a wall.
That's wall. That's his lap done and dusted. At least this attempt, you can see here really pushing the car to its limits, losing quite a bit of grip, even on the fronts and the rear tires. So that's not going to be that good. Sweeney improves even more his time, a 1:07.599. Does he beat the
Not
Newgarden
quite.
lap?
That was a 5:51 that we're trying to get to. 5:71, creeping now, purple.
Wow, what is that? 200ths of a second slower than Newgarden?
Yup. We're getting close.
Wow.
We might hit it here, even on a fixed setup. That's pretty impressive. And I'm sure that the lap has been, you know, broken already on iRacing at some point, but in a fixed setup league, that's really good. These guys are hustling around here. Bobby Krug out of the hairpin. Now this lap, a little off, certainly from what he wanted. Might have even backed things down. Yeah, quite a bit off of what he would have wanted there, and that will do it for his qualifying run, it looks like. Certainly not what he would have wanted, but Ryan Bjerk is now on the racetrack. Car 04, we'll see what he can do.
We'll see what Bjerke can do, but going back to Krug's lap, he obviously made some contact with the wall, but it shows you how technical this Long Beach racetrack really is. So, you know, I'm sure we'll see more of that as the day goes on. We might even see more of it right here in qualifying, but I think what everybody's watching right now is who can beat that Joseph Newgarden track record. We got a minute left to see if anybody can break that, and we've gotten awful close so far.
Well, it won't quite be Ryan Bjerke in car 04. So Warren Keith might be the next one that has a chance. He's a bit slow out of the hairpin. We'll see what he can do, though. It's a 1:12.482 first lap out. Obviously going to try and improve on that. And hey, look at those Ferrari colors there, JP. I know that's a bit new. Seeing the black adorning the Ferraris in 2022 is going to be a little more interesting, I think. And that's a good look there on the 88 car.
Yeah, absolutely a fantastic look. I love the new Ferrari livery. You know, the darker red and obviously the black really does not pop out, but it just brings more attention to your eye. And unfortunately for Keith, looks like this lap might not be good enough because we saw that lockup in the fountain section. It looks like he's running the black tires as well, Andrew.
Yeah, he is.
So another driver, that's the second driver so far that we have seen that's running the black. So obviously good practice. You can see just how difficult it is, Andrew, just to get the tire temperatures up, you know, into the working range. So the first few laps, it's just going to be struggle, isn't it? Until those tires come up to temperature, it's just going to be struggling a lot. And really, you have to be extremely cautious to not hit the barrier.
You saw a moment there with Zach Buchanan coming across the line and finishing up his qualifying run. He will now start from the 5th position. So our full grid then on the way. 63 laps the distance at Long Beach this evening. Let's go ahead and roll through the bunch of them. Starting on pole for race number 1 of the season, it's Adam Kreppen in car 37, nearly touching that lap record set in 2018 by Joseph Newgarden. If he had, man, that would have been rather impressive, I think. But just a little bit off, Reed Sweeney there will go second place and start from outside pole in race number 1. It's Bobby Krug starting from 3rd. Grant Palmer will roll off from 4th position. It'll be Zach Buchanan starting in the 5th spot, as I mentioned, reigning champion now in the series. And yes, he is going to live that one up. He will not let anybody know that he is not champion. I guess other way around. He won't not let people. Anyways, you get the point. Starting from the 6th position, just alongside his previous series champion Matt Chubb in car 42. It'll be Blake Galloway rolling off in car 05 from the 7th spot. Jonathan Kraus in position number 8. And to round out your top 10 here, JP, it's Spencer Ray and Matt Skipper.
11th place will go the way of Dave Weezer in the number 25. The number 04 of Ryan Bjerke is going to start in 12th place on his outside. Row number 7 is going to have Donnie Staubitz in the number 13 and Cole Frelick in the number 15 on his outside. Row number 8 on 15th place, we're going to have Scott McClendon in the number 22 and the number 88 of Warren Keith on his outside. 17th place, and starting row number 9, we're going to have Jake Walsh in the number 33 and the number 87 of Eric McCarthy in the number 87. And 19th place, we're going to have Raul Alvarez in the number 10. And Andrew, it feels good going through the whole grid once again.
Yeah, it is nice to have time to actually go through the entire grid, learn everybody's names, and see some of the liveries out there. That is always very much appreciated. A look at all 19 cars as they roll through turn number 10 for the final time before being a full, cohesive field and going racing this evening. It's going to be a lot of fun here at Long Beach. Thanks for joining us here on Pit Stop TV. We are so glad that you're all here. We're so glad to have IndyCar action once again, and just like that, green flag is out at Long Beach. Oh, a crash already. Bobby Krug hard in the wall.
It's not going to be the greatest start for him. His car is already toast, so that's the danger of running IndyCar at Long Beach. Luckily for the drivers, they have one fast repair to use, but you can see it's not already good. I mean, it's not good to use your first fast repair on the first lap of the race, is it, Andrew?
No, you don't want to. And Caleb, getting into the sequence of the race now through the first few corners for the first time. Obviously, down that 51 car, one of the best drivers in the series. That's going to change things up in this early going.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. We saw through qualifying that Krug was very fast and a top 3 driver, I believe, in qualifying. So for him to be eliminated, not necessarily eliminated, but put at a deficit so quickly changes the complexion of this race. So we'll have to keep an eye on that and see what he can do for the rest of his day. But not a good start for him himself. But look at that tight hairpin corner right there they come through. So technical, but everybody rolls through there fine as they'll come around and complete lap number 1.
Lap 1 in the books. Adam Kreppen out front. It's Reed Sweeney second, then Grant Palmer. A side-by-side battle across the line there. We let the entire field come through, even all the way back to Spencer Ray. It looks like Matt Skipper some 11 seconds off pace. Let's go ahead and go back and get a look at what happened there, lap number 1 for, well, really the entire field, but most notably, obviously, Bobby Krug with big, big troubles at a turn 1. This is a look back to the green flag, or at least I thought it was. Maybe not far enough. We'll go back a little further and see if we can find this for Bobby Krug. Big, big troubles. He starts off from the 3rd position, just behind pole sitter Adam Kreppen. I'm really surprised to see this, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we are all surprised to see exactly what happened. Is it going to be contact, I wonder,
Yes.
under braking? Yes. Oh, yeah, big contact. Luckily for him, Andrew, he didn't really, just I didn't bounce off the wall back into the racing line. You can see a few drivers taking avoiding action, but just really unlucky to have that contact under braking. And at that point, you're just a passenger. Your car is going to go wherever the momentum leads it, and there's absolutely nothing you can do. We're going to take a better look on the onboard. Looks like a bit of contact even before the green flag, but as soon as the green flag drops, you can see he sticks in 3rd place, but under braking, that's where the contact happens.
Yeah, I mean, riding on board with them right here. We're getting ready to see this contact come up. They came out of this corner so close right there, and that's where the contact was made. Both tires hit on the right side and then into the wall. And like you said, JP, it's a good thing he didn't necessarily slide back into the racing surface, because a lot more cars would have been damaged, and then his car would have been even worse after this first wreck.
So he'll take a fast repair very early. Battles in the midfield, and problems for the champion. Zach Buchanan has just had issues. And, yeah, that's not going to help you steer whatsoever. Zach Buchanan in trouble here. That's out of turn 5, down to turn 6, where he'll come to rest and go ahead and take a tow. Now we got to go back and find the issue for Zach Buchanan. It's going to come, it looks like, in turn number 1. So a similar situation, except not really. Same corner here as Bobby Krug, but very different story for Zach Buchanan. Let's see what happens. Slow car of Warren Keith off.
He just gets... Yeah, he just gets maybe distracted, target locks the car ahead, and unfortunately for him, yeah, that's gonna be it. And you can see just trying to drive with the collapsed suspension, and then you pretty much have one wheel turning, the other wheel fighting against you at all times, and maybe he hits the wall again, but I wonder if it was alone or did he get any help? Oh, it looks like it was alone as well.
Car 33 gets a little
contact.
piece of him.
Yeah.
It was Jake Walsh, a little bit of wing damage there as he went by. I think Jake actually gets away okay.
Well, looking back on that wreck, I wonder, the car in front of the Buchanan also went wide in that and slowed up, and I'm not sure why that was. I don't know if maybe Buchanan saw that car go wide. We see Warren Keith, that was the car in front of him, do the same thing. I'm not sure if Buchanan was like driver see, driver do type mentality, but nonetheless, same corner, same time, both cars went wide. One car made contact with the wall, and one did not, as we see debris come off.
So that was the story there. Warren Keith comes out of the pit lane and was holding wide and slow and letting the field go by. He had an issue on lap 1, was letting the field try and get through without any kind of issue. Unfortunately, it may have distracted Zach Buchanan. I don't necessarily disagree with that theory at all. I think that could absolutely be correct. And the champion with a very, very poor start, already dead last of the cars that took the start.
Yeah, terrible start for the number 1 driver, and yeah, it's just heartbreaking that it had to happen on the first few laps of the race. Obviously, the first few laps of the season, Andrew, as well. So not the greatest of start, but champions can bounce back really easy from incidents like this. So I will never rule out the number 1. I'll never rule out a champion. I'll never rule out any driver, especially after the first round. So hopefully he can bounce back. If not this race, the next one even stronger. But cutting it back while we are on board with Spencer Ray, he's currently fighting for, looks like 7th place. Just ahead of him is Walsh, who we saw having contact with Zach Buchanan. But as you mentioned, Andrew, not a lot of damage to the number 33 driver.
Problems for Reed Sweeney.
Wow, another car. That'll make 5 now in the first 5 laps.
And another front runner. He was 2nd place. Has contact somewhere, I'd imagine turn 9. It actually could have been turn 8. I know turn 8 gave me troubles when I was practicing here, just getting some laps in myself. I would not be at all surprised if this contact actually comes from turn number 8 and gets the best of car number 9. Let's go back and take a look here. And JP, I feel like turn 8's a little bit easier in a GT car, full-bodied car. You have the risk, I guess. I don't know. It's just something weird. And it's not turn 8, actually, so it must be turn 9 down here. Even turn 9 feels like it should be okay in an Indy car.
Yeah, but sometimes just carry a bit too much speed. Is that? Yeah, that's the case. And as soon as he realized, he just stepped on the brake, maybe locked up the inside front tire, and at that point, you're just a passenger. It's essentially the same we saw from Spencer Kostovic yesterday, Andrew. Yep. Just carrying too much speed on that corner, and unfortunately, there's no runoff areas, there's no grass. Unfortunately, there's just a concrete wall waiting for you, and yeah, unfortunately, in Indy cars and on GT cars, that's terminal damage.
I was going to mention Spencer Kostowitz as well.
Well, now we're getting one more look at this replay right here of carrying too much speed, but we're 7 laps into this race, and we've had 5 cars have damage so far. You know, Sweeney obviously hasn't gone a lap down yet, so he continues to roll on here. But we talked about Krug in lap 1 and putting him at a deficit, but when you keep having cars like this wreck, he keeps moving up the board.
Yeah, I mean, the more cars that have issues, obviously, ahead of you, the more positions you're able to gain back or just gain in the first place. So these guys that took the, you know, the strategy of starting on black tires, or, well, qualifying on those black tires at least, they were able to get some positions here. As actually Donnie Staubitz loses a spot to Reed Sweeney, and Zach Buchanan goes on by as well. So one of the cars that took those black tires in qualifying actually headed towards the rear, and it looks like Donnie decided to start from the pit lane. So unfortunately, iRacing decides not to send us his info. But that is Donnie Staubitz in car 13. We go back up front. Matt Chubb chasing down Grant Palmer. This is the first we've really looked at the top 3 under normal green flag conditions without a big story here, JP. And finally we see second and third, they're close. Kreppin's starting to creep away, but Palmer at least has company from Chubb.
Yeah, absolutely. Kreppin is just, well, darting away just like we saw yesterday from Victor Miranda. So I hope it's not a carbon copy of what happened last time out in Long Beach, but these two looks like they're going to be within a battle. It depends, obviously, matchup where he's quicker. Obviously, you mentioned fixed setup, so this is going to be down to drivers, essentially driving styles, you know. Can you be aggressive? Look at how close he got to the tire barrier. So at this point, he's just, I guess, kind of nursing the tires. Andrew, do you think early on could they be nursing the tires, saving a little bit of the grip for later on? You can see now Jake Walsh trying to get past, looks like Bjerke. And, well, this is an interesting battle because Bjerke absolutely parked it on the apex right there. So this is fun to watch.
Yeah, battle heating up right here between the 4th, 5th, and 6th drivers, I believe, as they all come into the picture. Actually, that's 5, 6th, and 7th.
Oh!
As Walsh, car spins in front of those drivers as this battle's heating up. I'm not sure exactly who that was.
That was Bjerke. Contact out of turn number 6. He'll rejoin behind McClendon. You can see he got back rolling okay. Walsh then checks up, and he has another car going off on his nose, or at least something of the sort. We don't really know exactly what happened. Let's go back and get a look at it then. Cars 33 and 04. And, was it 04? Yes, Bjerke's car number 04. See, there's even drivers in this series, JP, that we're new to. We've got to get used to here. You see Jake Walsh in the blue and yellow car, and yeah, I really think Bjerke just lost it on his own.
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility, obviously, with the bumps and, I mean, the amount of horsepower that the Indy cars produce. Certainly, it's possible they just lose it under throttle, and, yeah, this is going to be the perfect look to see if there was any contact between him and Walsh. Again, Andrew, I'm going to share your thoughts. I don't think there was, maybe on the initial sequence, maybe afterwards that the number 04 spun, and, yeah, by himself.
He did spin around by himself, and I noticed during that replay we saw some debris come off of a car. When these cars lose a body piece or something like that, how much does it affect the aerodynamics? Obviously, you said these cars are very aero-dependent, but is that something they can replace when they come into the pits, or is that something that's going to affect them for the rest of the day?
Now, that piece had initially rendered as coming off, and that was the left front side of the wing there that you saw rolling around on the pavement, and that would be extremely important. You do not want to lose that, and even here on Walsh's machine, you can see that it's damaged from that initial contact with Buchanan, and I'm sure that contact with Bjerke didn't help at all, but that is extremely important. That's a great question. For anybody that maybe is a little more casual and doesn't really know, yeah, you want every piece of this race car to stay as perfect as you can leave it. To not have a half of your wing, you're taking away a half of your front downforce, as that was close there through the fountain with Spencer Ray behind, but not only are you sacrificing half of your front downforce, you're sacrificing it on just one half of the car, JP. It's not like you're taking away equally from each side of the car. It's coming off of just the left front, so you're going to have problems turning into left-handed corners, but you might still be decently okay turning into right-handed corners, and there's since been some more issues for Bjork. He lost another spot here, it looks like, to Warren Keith, as Keith is through 9 and 10, so big issues here early.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, with this cars being Formula cars, they're obviously designed to work, in, I guess you can say, not a rhythm, but, work as a one piece. So as soon as you lose even a little bit of, a piece of carbon fiber on these cars, it's going to upset the whole car itself. So obviously you're going to be using more tires to essentially try to keep up the same pace, which is going to be nearly impossible. And as you mentioned, Andrew, you're just going to be affecting that side of the car that had the incident. So it's just, I guess a snowball effect. You lose a bit of the front wing, you're going to be affecting that side of the car, you're going to be affecting the rear side of the car as well. And it's more, you're going to be more prone to make even more mistakes. So it's really tricky to run Formula cars, and because you really have to avoid any sort of touch with absolutely everything.
Well, as this race continues on, lap 11 clicked off here of 63 at the front of the field. Kreppen leads, and we saw him put down a blistering fast lap in qualifying, and I'll be honest, boys, it's carried over here to the race so far, as he's got a 3.7 second lead on second place driver Palmer and third place driver Chubb.
No problem there for Matt Skipper in turn 1. The car looks clean, likely just had a bit of a spin, potentially under braking. We saw it last night even in Porsche Cup cars, JP, where drivers would rush down through the gears. And I know you weren't there with us for SCAR on Sunday evening, but we saw that as well with the GT1 cars at Laguna Seca, where if you rush down through the gears, you can kind of, I don't want to say chatter the rear tires. It's not the right term, but you can essentially shock the rear end of the race car and absolutely chatter the rear tires in a way, I guess, and lock them and spin around pretty easily.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the risk that you take by downshifting too quickly under heavy braking zones. Obviously, some drivers do that, out of personal preference, and others do it just because, sometimes you can get more engine braking, so the front tires can kind of bite a little bit more into the racetrack, so you quickly have to, upshift sometimes. But, it's a risk versus reward. Obviously, you mentioned you can shut out the rear wheels, and they can just get, loose, and you can hit the barriers with the rear end of the car. So it's a tricky scenario. Obviously, it could be faster, but, as anything that can be faster in racing, it's also very dangerous.
Well, we're out on board with Matt Chubb here, and we see he has the red tires on. And Andrew, do you think this is something that these drivers who are running these red tires, when we get our first pit stop, is it something they're going to want to change to the black tires, or do you think the red tires they'll want to stay on for the majority of this race? I know you mentioned that for short runs you have a lot of grip with these red tires, but they wear very quickly, whereas the black tires, they last longer. So obviously we're on some pretty long runs right now. Do you think these drivers will switch when they come to pit lane?
It depends on whether or not they feel limited by the tires or the fuel first. So obviously, if you're running out of fuel before the tires go away, then you stay on the same compound. But if you're noticing that you're running out of running out of tire before the fuel, maybe you consider that switch to the primary tire compound. And it's really tough to say. Some of these guys that are midfield maybe need to get some time back, like Reed Sweeney, for example, might opt for a run with the primary tires, especially now that he's had that pit stop and likely filled up on a little bit of fuel. He can stretch fuel, maybe eliminate a pit stop further on and stay out of that pit lane, which would be very important for him. But it is very, very tough to say exactly what these drivers are going to do, especially since we're joining these guys for the first time since, August, September of last year. So things have changed a little bit, and obviously strategies always evolve. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly what these guys do. This is a really good battle. Reed Sweeney, all kinds of offensive here, trying to battle Blake Galloway. Galloway going to defend a little bit down to turn 9. It's not going to work. The 9 car goes up the inside, takes it away from car 05, and that is good enough for 7th for Reed Sweeney as he continues his terror back through the field.
Yeah, that was a great move for him, just, showing confidence left, right, and center. He just absolutely went for it. You saw it, essentially pushing Galloway through, turn 8? So, just absolutely show of confidence by the number 9 driver. And I don't expect him to stay in that position for too long, Andrew. Looks like he has only, a 2-second gap, around that 2.3-second gap to the driver ahead of him. I expect that gap to close in quite quickly.
Some drivers on pit lane.
And since you can see these timers are in sync, so the left timer is actually your pit lane timer, and this will be good for us to keep in mind throughout the course of the evening. In the course of the season, really, the left timer there is your pit lane timer, right timer is the pit box timer. These are in sync, which tells me that Björk Toad, however, if you go to previous race leader Adam Kreppen, he has just pitted out of the race lead, and you can see the pit lane timer is already going. The pit box timer will not start until he enters his pit box. So here we go. The beginnings of some pit strategy here. You just asked the question, Caleb. This is the answer, and he's going for the black tires. He's going to the primaries.
So he's going to switch to the black tires, and you have to make a mental note right here. Lap 15 is when he decided to pit, so obviously getting close to the end of a fuel run, perhaps. So
if I had to theorize, I'd imagine he could definitely go longer on fuel. Everybody else is going longer. I think this might be a ploy to go for 15 laps now, 33 later, and then 15 to the end. So he's going to run these blacks, I would imagine, twice as long as the reds, and try and stretch that mid-race distance and have shorter runs at the beginning and the end of the race. I doubt these tires go for 48 laps. I would imagine these go for about 30, then he puts reds back on. Sorry.
Well, I'm glad you chimed in. It's a really interesting strategy. I mean, for him to want to split the race into 3 pit stops like that and put the primaries on. I'm curious to see if we'll see anybody else that was behind him, Chubb, Palmer, Kraus, do anything of the same. But realistically, he hasn't lost that much time, sits in 4th right now. So Kreppen on a different strategy than most. We'll see if anybody plays out the same way.
Here we go, Grant Palmer on the pit lane. And we'll see what he does here. In car number 30, up on the pneumatic jacks, and those tires are staying red. So maybe he runs two stints here on the reds and goes for blacks later on, but he definitely would have taken tires there. There's no way a driver's going to come into the pit lane in an IndyCar at Long Beach and not take tires unless they only did 1 lap. So Palmer headed back out there after just 8.5 seconds. It is a longer stop than Kreppen's, so maybe putting in a little bit of extra fuel, maybe Kreppen was able to save a little bit of fuel in that first run. Obviously, that's a great subject that we talk about so much on Tuesday evenings with the North American Racing League, JP, and certainly likely could be a subject tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, Kreppen was running in the lead and was quite comfortable there, Andrew. So I'm going to say he was just controlling the pace, just trying to save fuel, nurse those tires. And I'm pretty sure, the strategy that you're betting, that he's going to do might just be on point. You're just going for blacks right now, extending it just the final stint, just if he needs the pace, he'll have the tires to do it, and obviously a lighter car as well. So it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, only time will tell how that will pay off, but I assume it's going to be really good, as it looks like we have another car, Galloway, with extensive damage to his front end.
You see, it looks like that wheel is a little bit wobbly as he comes down pit lane. We're going to take a look back and see what happened here to Galloway. Andrew, I think you'll be better at this than I am, so I'm going to let you take away on this replay.
This is going to happen very early in the lap. We'll have to actually go all the way back around to turn 1. I can tell you, Jonathan Kraus just pitted, and there it is. Blake Galloway a little bit deep in turn 1, gets the wall. You can see Bobby Krug goes on by, so issues there for Galloway in the 05, and he'll have to get back out there after a fast repair. He has done exactly that. So then eyes have to turn to guys like Jonathan Kraus, who just came into the pit lane and is taking service. Up on the jacks, Jake Walsh in as well in car number 33. And Donnie Staubitz might come on in. He was slow through the hairpin. Actually, since he's on these black tires, he could go this long stint to start and run a couple of shorter stints later on the reds and try and make some time up. Let's see how things go for Jake Walsh leaving the pit lane.
7.87, that's a quick stop as well. And Andrew, the number 13 is going to bring us, I guess, some really good insight to see how long he can stay out. Let it be for fuel or the tires. So it's going to be really good to see how many laps he can do on those black tires. Obviously, that's, hopefully he doesn't make any contact or has an unscheduled visit to the pit lane. But, it's really good. I'm pretty sure other drivers will be taking a look at him as well, with a closer eye, especially, Kreppen, who is already on the black tires. So it's getting interesting. I love the strategy game on these races. So, I'm really excited. I'm just going to keep my eye out on any sort of thing that happens on the racetrack because it's bound to get really exciting.
Well, I think the strategy game right here that you mentioned, JP, is a big deal right now. We'll see how spread out these cars are. I think there's 2 things that can get you back in the loop of this race, and that's strategy, and then also with the cars being spread out, you may not necessarily be around the car that you can pass. So you kind of go back into qualifying mode where you just want to put down the quickest time, lap after lap, and chop away at that deficit.
A lot of little satellite battles across the racetrack. Trying to check in with some of them. Here's Jonathan Kraus going on by Donnie Staubitz. Staubitz on those black primary tires in car 13 drops down into 8th spot as Kraus goes on by for 7th. And we're only on lap 19 of 63, but this race is actually going by decently quick. I mean, we're almost a third of the way into things, and including pre-race festivities and everything, we've only been broadcasting for 54 minutes, so we'll take that. We like the quick races that have a lot of content, and we've seen that so far. This has gone by decently quickly, guys, but a whole lot to talk about the entire race.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. As you mentioned, the race pace has been going really well. It's been very exciting, only 19 laps, so it's really fun. But Andrew, another point that we need to touch is the dirty air that these cars produce. We saw yesterday, especially with the interview with Victor Miranda, how much, even the Cup cars were using tires. And obviously these cars, the IndyCar, it's really going to use a lot more tires. They're going to be more sensitive to especially dirty air that they produce. So if you're running behind someone with, for 10, 15 laps, or even for a whole stint, you're really going to be on a back foot, when it comes to tire grip.
Dirty air is definitely going to be a talk of the day when you're following closely behind somebody. We've seen some of those moments so far, but in fairness, these guys haven't gotten too close to each other, I don't think, a whole lot yet today. They've stayed decently spaced apart, which is good. When you're following a car, you want to give them space, not only for their own sake, but also to give yourself time to react and obviously not crash into them, which is also for their own sake as well as your own. So definitely, I think dirty air will be an issue for some corners, like turn 10. I could see that being a problem since it is a little bit faster on power, but slower corners like the hairpin and such, you would imagine you'd see some cars stay a little further back of one another and pass into the heavier braking zones like turn 1 and even turn 9, for example. Just watching cars go on through here. And Caleb, this is kind of an experience you get as a race car fan, a racing fan. If you go to a venue, if you go to the Long Beach, for example, you're able to sit in one spot and just kind of watch the field go on by. I like just doing this, seeing what the race looks like from this kind of static standpoint.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it kind of gives you like you said, the exact standpoint of what it would like to have bought a ticket and be sitting there in the crowd watching these cars come by, whether it be in these grandstands or the front stretch grandstands. Definitely interesting. I mean, there's the fountain right there, another cool shot, and that's my favorite part. Being my second time here at Long Beach, that fountain right there, it's kind of like a roundabout on a normal street, and so the way these drivers handle through this fountain turn, it's marvelous to watch.
Well, it definitely is a roundabout. Under normal circumstances, it kind of, I'd imagine maybe more of a traffic circle, looping around the fountain there. But yeah, it's a really, really cool corner to add into Long Beach here. Definitely, I think one of the coolest in most of American motorsport. We talk about some iconic corners like the corkscrew at Laguna Seca, for example, and you could kind of lump in the S's at VIR, even Oak Tree at VIR, of course, is so important to American motorsport, and you could go on and on, but I think the fountain at Long Beach is one of those that just kind of stands out. 6 cars in the lead lap as we work lap 21 of 63. The field is spread it out nicely. We saw a lot of issues early on, JP, but it seems like these guys are getting the hang of things.
Yeah, absolutely. As we're going to enter the second third of the race, drivers, even if they didn't put any practice before the race, this 20-lap run, has been really good just to, literally lay down laps. So you have yet another driver coming down to the pit lane. But yeah, just building that confidence, Andrew. We talked that, plenty of times. And on cars like this that are so tricky to drive, on tracks like this that are unforgiving to mistakes, I mean, it's just good, and I'm pretty sure the drivers will be happy to just finish a race, under racing condition. And as you can see, 0 cautions for 0 laps, 2 lead changes. Well, it has been, it's a really good start for the season as well.
It really is. It's a great start to the season, like you mentioned, JP. But one thing you mentioned is the 0 cautions for 0 laps. There's not much time for the field to be grouped back together, so you have to be perfect for 63 laps, and we've seen some of these drivers get out of line here, and it just makes it so tough. I mean, we got 10 cars all a lap down right now, so 9 and up, all still racing on the lead lap, but different strategies, and like I said, you have to be perfect for all 63 laps.
You can see here Matt Chubb, who was just leading the race a few moments ago, has pitted. Now Dale Weiser is in the pit lane in car 25, and the pit time there for Chubb in car 42 8.4 seconds. That is just faster than Grant Palmer, but quite a bit slower than Adam Kreppen, who has gapped the field by a second and a half now as these runs go on. And we're seeing a lot of different pit strategies as this race goes on as well. I wonder if we get a yellow flag at any point today. Obviously, it would take a pretty large pile up, which would really affect this race, but it would bring everybody back onto a kind of a... Oh, that was a great drift by Reed Sweeney. It would bring everybody back to a kind of a standard, I guess, and even the playing field. And another thing that's going to even the playing field quite a bit is the fact that we just saw the one car that seemed to have started the race on black tires, JP Pitt, after only 22 laps. That's Donnie Staubitz in car 13. I feel like those tires could have gone longer. It's a matter of the fuel. And maybe, limited there by the black tires potentially, but I don't know. 23 laps on fuel doesn't feel like a whole lot.
No, absolutely not. I dare say, I don't know. It's just weird that seeing he come in so early with those black tires. You can see yet another driver, Krug, coming into with the black tires. So yeah, and as you mentioned, a full caution flag, Andrew, a full course yellow, it's really it could change a lot of the complexity of the race, because obviously Kreppen, he would come in to just, I assume obviously, to switch to reds, but some drivers could just risk and put on blacks to try stretch it till the end of the race, just holding that track position. So it could definitely really shake up the entirety of the race, but obviously, as you mentioned, it would need a big pile up.
Well, you mentioned full course yellows, and we've seen some cars obviously hit the wall pretty hard and have some damage in no yellow because they're able to tow their way back to the pit area. So what exactly, Andrew, would cause a full course caution? What would we necessarily have to see to bring out this full course yellow?
It would be a large pile up. We had actually a pretty big accident last year in turn 8. That involves several cars piling into one another. It would take something like that. It's not going to be these single car incidences. Ooh, Warren Keith misses turn 1 big time, and he's going to have to loop that car around and get back after it, as he will do exactly just that. Loses a few spots. He was battling with Matt Skipper, and now drops down behind Donnie Staubitz and into the 13th spot. But it's going to take a large incident for us to see any kind of full course yellow. And here we go, front runners. This could be interesting. They've got a lap car in between, but that orange car ahead is race leader Adam Kreppen. We're on board with Grant Palmer, and they are very close.
They're very close. Obviously, Palmer has the advantage, the tire advantage. Running those reds, you can see that steering wheel going green. That's the push to pass, if I'm not mistaken. So he's using a lot of the power to just try to close into the number 37. And that's going to be another talking point, Andrew. I'm not quite sure. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure on iRacing is by number of activations, not by seconds.
Correct. Very good reminder there. These drivers do have push to pass active, and they should get 10 uses of that button. So it's not like normal IndyCar where you have an amount of time that you can use push to pass. It's basically extra power. Think of it that way. Or if you're familiar with Formula One, it's the same essentially as using DRS, and it's drag reduction system for them. It's a bit different here in IndyCar, but essentially it's the go fast button, and you can use that to pass. It's push to pass. And I can see actually Kreppen is on black tires, which makes sense that Palmer is catching him on these reds. But you get 10 uses of that button. So Caleb, if you come out of turn 11 here, you can hit that button and it stays active for a certain amount of time or until you break, whichever comes first. And I'd imagine it should last the length of this front stretch here at Long Beach, or at least most of it. That would be very, very important in these battles. At the same time, Palmer is on the better tires. I don't think he needs to use too many push to passes yet.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I mean, like you said, you only have a set amount, so you don't want to use them up and need them closer to the races. He closes in through the fountain corner right there. No doubt about that. I mean, he's catching Kreppen very well. I think he just needs to stay patient and set up a pass, and I think eventually he'll kind of reel Kreppen in just with having the better tires.
On board here with Palmer still. And it looks like Scott List-Rambler, who won this race last year, is chiming in about the strategy, saying that a 22-lap stint definitely does lock Chubb into a two-stop strategy. He went a third of the race and is planning to go another third of the race, I would imagine. That might be the only way we see a two-stop. If the black tires are only getting these guys through a third of this event and not through 30 laps, I think these guys that pitted after about 15 or so, like Kreppen, for example, who put on the black tires and I thought was going to go for a long run of about 30 laps or so, that might not be possible. Fuel might not go that long. And I believe I recall fuel limits in the series before, but it's not outlined by Zach Buchanan. So Zach, when you go back and watch this, you'll have to make sure you outline that for us again. But I would imagine there probably is a fuel limit then that prevents you from going 30 laps or longer, whatever that number is. So that's going to restrict what these guys can do as we stay on board with the top two. There has been a pass further back. Spencer Ray and Jonathan Kraus starting to battle. And even Warren Keith and Scott McClendon. And we'll stay up here with the top two for the moment. As, boy, there's a lot to ponder with these strategies.
Oh, absolutely. And one thing we're seeing it develop right here, Andrew, is the dirty air. You can see how much Grant Palmer is struggling just to keep up with Adam Crappen. You know, that dirty air is just absolutely hurting his tires. You can see he's obviously, you know, just by running 1.5, maybe just 1 second behind the car in front, you're going to be losing a lot of downforce on those on that car. And obviously, you know, Crappen is doing absolutely everything he can. He's just running his own race, but by just leaving that bit of a gap, that 1 second, he's forcing Palmer behind to push his tires even more. He's forcing Palmer to use a bit more of that grip and maybe shorten his second stint. So it could really backfire. Obviously, what Palmer needs is essentially do what, you know, Formula 1 drivers have been doing. You know, either you really attack and try to go for that gap, or as soon as you realize you cannot really go for it, you know, just back off and try to save your strategy. But at this point, with Chubb right behind Palmer, well, it's going to get tricky.
Yeah, I mean, we're where Palmer's at right now, and that Chubb's closing up on it. We talked about when he wants to use those push to pass. Well, I mean, he's been as patient as he can be, and he's losing a little bit of time on Crappen. So does he start to possibly use that now to get out front and get that clean air and put a gap between himself and Chubb? I believe Chubb's on those red tires as well. So strategy with fuel mileage, but also strategy with this push to pass, and when you want to use it depending on how close you can get. But he is losing, I feel like, a little bit of time to Crappen.
Work deeper into this race, getting closer and closer to halfway. In fact, only a few laps away from halfway here, JP. Halfway would be the completion of lap 32, well, really 31 and a half. This is interesting. We've got 2 or 3 cars within 2 seconds here, and on various different strategies, and I love this. This is what's so great about IndyCar racing. I don't want to trash on Formula 1 too much. I definitely like Formula 1, big fan there, but you get locked into very similar strategies a lot of times in Formula 1. You come over to IndyCar, and things tend to be a little bit different.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm a massive fan of Formula 1, you know it, but I have to agree. Obviously, having, you know, a fixed fuel limit, I guess you can say, a fixed fuel tank on Formula 1 definitely is going to hurt you, and that's definitely is going to limit the amount of strategy that you can have, you know, just by running tires. But obviously with IndyCar, with variable fuel flow, not variable fuel flow, but, you know, the amount of fuel that you can have in the car at any certain time, and obviously those 2 tires, they really bring out a different strategy, and it's just so much fun to watch because we get locked in scenarios like this, and I just love it.
Yeah, nice shot right here, looking out the back. You see how distant that car is from the leader. Another battle we ride on board with right here. Chubb closing in on Palmer, and he has closed that gap ever so closely as they go to this tight corner, and he closes that gap. Now, when does Chubb decide to use those push to pass? Well, he try and use it to get past Palmer and then perhaps set his sights on Crappen. But these 3 have been the drivers who have been out front all day long, and they're kind of flexing their muscle right now over the rest of the field.
So top 3 all very close. There is one driver in 4th we've got to talk about, Reed Sweeney, who has worked his way back through the field after some damage. He is back into the 4th spot. He's actually following a couple of back markers battling just ahead of him. That's going to hold him up a little bit more, but he's already 38 seconds back of the leaders. So he's really in his own battle. I mean, he's just here to run as many laps as he can and stay as clean as he can as he follows 2 cars that are on black tires. He's actually on the alternate reds, and these two cars battling are Matt Skipper and Scott McClendon for 10th and 11th. They're both 1 lap down. McClendon should have a draft here to turn 1. Does he use anything? No, he's going to get out of the way and let Sweeney go on by. That actually could be smart if he doesn't do this. Oh, man, if he had stayed with Sweeney there, Scott could have used Sweeney to open up a hole.
Yeah, absolutely. Not too far gone yet, so hopefully he can catch up a little bit. Obviously, Skipper's going to have to, you know, essentially lift off the throttle at one point, and it's probably going to have to give the racing line. Oh, wait, Crappen in the pits already?
This is not at all what I expected. I think maybe realized that he can't go the full 30 laps that he was wanting to do, so splitting this into a 3-stopper. And this definitely, I think, turns the race into the hands of Matt Chubb. A two-stop strategy is always the way to go if you can do it. This is a three-stopper. He's got to put reds on. Yes, he puts the alternate reds on. It's got to be reds to the end here for Kreppen. He's got to make up everything he can now.
Absolutely.
So this would... I'm sorry, this would be
Judy.
his last...
No, this would not be his last stop. He'll have one more in about 15 laps again. What he's doing here is splitting the race into 4 parts, 3 stops, 4 different stints. I think he was wanting to go for that longer stint, trying to save fuel, and that was part of why he was backing up to the cars behind. They also might be trying to hit their tire allotment. I wonder if that is part of it. I wasn't aware if these guys had to actually run multiple compounds. Obviously, that's a requirement in Formula 1. It's Kreppen on cold tires. A bit of a bobble there. But I wasn't made aware of any kind of requirement with tire compounds and using multiple compounds, but that is a requirement in most series that do use multiple compounds, at least multiple slick compounds. So I wonder if that's what Kreppen is going for there.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you, Andrew. If, on IndyCar, they're required to use both compounds, especially when it's dry, but, well, either if it is or it's not, mandatory, it's definitely shooken up the strategy quite a bit. And, well, I cannot wait to see how that's going to work out for Kreppen. I mean, is it going to work out? Is he going to struggle? Is he going to lose the lead due to strategy? We're only going to find out, well, in, 30-odd laps, so it's definitely going to keep me glued to my seat until the end of the race. I cannot wait as we have, looks like another 3-car battle. This is Sweeney and Keith as well. No, this is Keith just chasing down, battling for 10th place right here.
Yeah, Keith trying to get back into this top 10 with McClendon and Skipper just ahead of him. These 3 cars tight, one of the tightest battles we've seen so far this evening. As they go through the fountain turn right there, as we ride on board with, I believe that's Skipper, looking back at McClendon and Keith. So, nice rebound for Keith so far. We saw him have a little bit of trouble early in this race as this battle continues to heat up.
Oh, and a spun car there. Who was that? Was that Eric McCarthy maybe? No, it wasn't McCarthy. I'm not sure who that was. That was Ryan Bjerk in turn 1, and oh, no! Galloway meets him. Galloway now with damage as he gets into the car 04 of Ryan Bjerk in turn 1. Oh my goodness. He's got no front wing. He'll have to nurse that car back to the pit lane. Let's go back to Skipper, McClendon, and Keith. This is really good racing back here, trying to get into the top 10. 2 of these 3 cars are in the top 10 for now. Keith is trying to enter. McClendon wants that 9th spot away from Skipper, though. McClendon was already on Skipper and battling with him before Sweeney came on through and kind of broke them up. And now you can see Keith has joined this fight. 3 cars battling deep in the field after 33 laps at Long Beach. Yeah, this is what you love. This is exactly what you love to see in IndyCar racing.
Oh, absolutely. I just love racing, Andrew, and just seeing these cars going around this racetrack. Oh, that's contact with the wall. And was that McClendon going in the wall?
That was Skipper in the red and white 14 car. As Grant Palmer in the pit lane.
Oh, this is going to change as well. A bit of the
Lot
strategy.
going on.
More and more parity as this race goes on.
So Skipper a bit slow there through turn 1. I don't think he actually got the fence. Just slowed down a little bit. Allowed McClendon to go on through. Now Warren Keith on the offensive. This is now a battle for 10th place as McClendon starts to gap car 14. And Palmer in the pit lane. We'll see what he does. A couple of other cars in the pit lane. Those are Bjerk and Galloway. And Grant Palmer is going to pull off and away with reds. It's a pit stop of 8 seconds on the dot. Or at least almost. And Kreppen with a 7.8 second pit stop should actually go on by Grant Palmer here. Here comes Kreppen. Granted, you saw it. Oh, yeah. Yep, you're right. Gets on by Palmer. But we did see those bobbles out of Kreppen on the cold tires. This is going to be interesting to see how these two work out.
Yeah, absolutely. Kreppen's going to have the advantage of having those tires up to temperature already, so he might gap, he will gap Palmer for the time being. Obviously, Palmer will have the advantage of having, fresher tires, let it be 1, 2, 3 laps. So it should help him, later on in the race. As you can see now, Keith coming down into pit lane. Looks like we're going to have a race in the pit lane as well, Andrew.
That was Skipper who pitted with him. So Warren Keith gets back out there, still on the red tires, 7.73 seconds in the box. Skipper will follow on out, and Jonathan Kraus is in. So a lot of these drivers going for the 4-quarter strategy. 3 pit stops then in total, 4 runs as a whole, and Grant Palmer with issues. This is in turn 9.
Oh, wow.
we'll get a view here for Grant Palmer. He had just gotten back on the racetrack. He was just ahead of Reed Sweeney and just behind Adam Kreppen. Of course, Palmer had joined Kreppen in that battle in the top 3. He was second before pit stop started back up. And this issue into turn 9, just overran the corner and took the safer option of turning that car around to the runoff. That was pretty heads up. That was pretty smart.
Yeah, pretty smart. And unfortunately, that's the risk of running cold tires. And unfortunately for him, it's going to be paying off in a lot of seconds. That gap is just going to keep increasing. So it's not the beginning of the third stint that he definitely wanted Caleb, but I mean, he's going to have to work around that for the time being. And obviously, it's going to add a little bit of wear and tear to those tires having that burnout, but maybe not too much.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt Palmer's lost that spot now to Sweeney. And I didn't realize how treacherous these cold tires would actually be. But when you go from running so hard, when you've got heat in your tires, and maybe you just miss it, you think, well, you go back to running how the car runs with heat in the tires, and you got there with cold tires, and we've seen drivers overshoot corners. We saw some bobbles out of Kreppen. So these cold tires, when they come off pit lane, are proven to be treacherous.
They had that mismatch of temperature, and it just tends to be rather slidey when you come out of the pit lane on cold tires and try to get back out there. Lap 36 of 63, we're on board with race leader Matt Chubb. And it looks like Jonathan Kraus will come into the pit lane. Matt Skipper back in as well, as he just had a crash maybe. I think so, because he is back in, and yep, he is getting out of the car. And there is car 30, Grant Palmer, back in the pit lane as well. Are you kidding me?
Oh, no. Already coming down to pit lane. That's going to be heartbreaking for him as well. He comes back down.
Must have accrued some wing damage somewhere, because...
yeah, maybe.
He didn't have any reason to take tires just yet. He had just gone back out there, obviously. So, does he have any damage? Yes, he has nosed that wing in somewhere, it looks like. That wing is a little misshapen.
Oh, and that's going to be haunting him, at least for a little bit. And just as we mentioned, even the slightest little bit of damage, that's going to really cost him a lot of time. And you can see just how much time it was going to cost him, Caleb, because as soon as that damage happened, he didn't even think twice about staying on the racetrack.
Yeah, he knew that it was going to prove to be costly, so he came right down pit lane, rather fix it and perhaps have a run to the finish with a clean car. But he was one of those drivers we were watching at a possible win, and now that mountain just got a lot higher to climb. So Sweeney jumps in third now, I believe, which will put Chubb and Kreppen in the top 2. So something to watch, no doubt. We'll see how Palmer can rebound here in these closing laps of this race, since we're already past halfway.
This will be the replay of what happens to him. It looks like he damaged it pretty squarely. It was really weird the way the wing was pushed up on each side. It wasn't like one winglet was damaged more than the other. Nothing happens here. That's turn 5. He just left, coming up to turn 6. No issue yet. I would imagine maybe spun around and nosed it in somewhere. A little bit sketchy there through 6. Turn 7. It's happened in turn 8, maybe turn 9. I mean, we haven't seen anything yet. There it is.
There we go.
Gets both sides of the race car. That explains the damage. That explains the pit stop there for Grant Palmer. Got the wall on inside. That forced him out to the wall on the outside. And, yeah, I think that's a pretty good reason to pit. Likely had some wheel damage there as well. Suspension damage is never something you want to have at a street course like this. Bobby Krug on the offensive. We'll go back live following a string of cars through turn 10. One car slow. That's Zach Buchanan giving up time. Bobby Krug trying to battle here with Scott McClendon. This is for position number 8.
This is a good battle. You can see just how much time. Sorry, Caleb. You can see just how much, I guess power these cars have, because their spinning tire is pointing forward, Andrew. And I mean, it's just crazy to see. You can see the number 51 looking down the inside, looking back into the racing line. So this is really good racing. Oh, he forces the driver to head into a mistake.
Scott McClendon hard on the wall. And he'll take the tow.
Another driver with contact to the wall, and we talked about it at the top of this show, how treacherous this track can be, and boy, has it caught a few drivers today.
Yeah, more than just a few. It's actually, yeah, Zach Buchanan has got problems a second time, and he's in the pit lane with issues. My goodness me.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth, because, wow, everything is happening. I mean, simultaneously feels like, and I cannot believe Zach made another mistake. And as you mentioned, down into the pit lane. No, it was outside. So I wonder where he got. Maybe down into turn 1 again?
It's going to happen in the fountain. He pitted with that damage. It looked like he was slow on the inside of turn 10. He got back around as opposed to taking the toe, which, it's 6 to 1/2 dozen the other. Here's the issue for Zach through the fountain. Gets the wall on the inside. Oh, the rear stepped out on him under braking.
Wow.
Rear brake bias is dangerous, people. That's why you sometimes don't want to dial that into a race car. That tends to definitely cause some issues. Gets the wall and that left front is destroyed. This is why we saw him giving a ball that time later on in the lap.
It really is amazing to see just how hard these cars make contact with the wall and the damage it can do. Man, I mean, it just seems there's certain corners that have snake bitten a lot of these drivers. As you see, we ride on with Zach Buchanan here after his wreck, and we got 23 laps left, 24 laps left, and so much more can happen. I mean, you really have to pay close attention to those front two runners that have run a pretty clean race so far. All it takes is one mistake from these guys, and man, how it could change. I mean, we saw it with Palmer even. I mean, he was in that top 3, running well, had a chance at this win, and ultimately has kind of taken himself out of that position.
There's been a real level of attrition this afternoon at Long Beach. Several cars with issues at several different points in time. Of course, the fast repair is keeping a lot of these drivers in the race. We're down to just 4 on the lead lap. That's back to Spencer Ray, and he's just gone 1 lap down, so make that 3 on the lead lap now. Several cars 1 lap down. In fact, it looks like as Ray might be battling here with Matt Chubb. Is he? Is he? Oh! Matt Chubb in the wall!
Oh, no.
Race leader has just crashed his car in the fountain. I noticed that he had put Spencer Ray 1 lap down and then had given that back up. This changes everything. Adam Kreppen, through attrition, may be handed a race win this afternoon. Lapping car 6 of Spencer Ray into turn 1. Does he outbrake himself? Yes, he absolutely does. And another car turned there. That was Bjork in the wall.
Absolutely, 2 cars having trouble. 1 on the entry of turn 1 and 1 on the exit. But, I cannot believe you can see Bjorka trying to essentially do a 3-point turn on an Indy car. But, that's just heartbreaking. To see the leader essentially just going out of the racetrack on a mistake on his own. God, that's got to sting, right, Caleb?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say I call the announcer's jinx, but I just mentioned how these top 2, anything can happen, and how they could be snake bitten, and then it happened to Chubb. Wow. I mean, that quick. There's just no room for error. That's what makes this series and these cars so much fun to watch, is you have to be perfect.
Jake Walsh in a battle here with Bobby Krug, and you absolutely have to be perfect. I mean, literally millimeter perfect here at Long Beach. You can't overstep any bounds. You've got to be so careful, so respectful of the car and track. Especially in these open wheel cars, you can bounce off the wall a time or two, JP, in a GT car. We've seen that time and time before. Go back to NARL Cash Days here in September, and we saw GT3 cars definitely bump into each other, bump into the wall, and be okay. But you can't do that in an Indy car. You can't do that in an open wheel car at all. You bump into the wall more than one light tap, and you're going to have problems, and it's going to significantly ruin your afternoon. And now, with no full course yellows and the field being so spread out and thinning so much, I doubt that we get a full course yellow at this point. I doubt that we get a leveling of the playing field here.
Yeah, I mean, without a full course yellow, it's going to be really hard to get some of those drivers that maybe had some bad luck early on, as you mentioned, to get, another chance. But, yeah, I mean, you mentioned it pretty well. You absolutely cannot, even think about touching the wall on cars like this. They're just so sensitive. Obviously, sometimes we saw drivers touching the walls and coming out with absolutely no damage, but sometimes, the smallest of touches will break your suspension arm, and, well, that's going to be your race done and dusted. So it's just precision. You need precision to run open wheel racing cars.
Well, Chubb, who we ride on board with here, had a perfect strategy going on. He had led 15 laps, and then he had the wreck happen. But a driver that I'd like to note there running second, Sweeney, who had damage early, has fought back to second place. And I know we said perhaps Creppen could be gifted a win here, but let's not count out Sweeney. He's been pretty fast so far this race.
He has. He had those issues very early on and has since just buckled down and gotten after it, kept his head down and run as fast as he can. He's been fast the entire day. Has issues here for Grant Palmer. Connection issues, pulling him out of the order a little bit. He comes back in, position number 3. Hasn't lost anything just yet, but boy, that was a little bit sketchy there for him. Spencer Ray in the pit lane. I didn't at all think that Reed Sweeney was going to come back and even into a top 5. But clearly, with issues for drivers ahead of him, it's a very real possibility. He's second place and actually comes into the pit lane now, so we'll see really where he cycles out as he's going to follow, it looks like, Dale Weiser onto the pit lane. Dale running in the 6th position. Yes, that is Dale just ahead of Sweeney. So these two come into the pit lane. We'll see what they can do.
And this could be their last stop as well. What is it, 19 laps to go? This could be the last time we're going to see these cars down in the pit lane. Now, obviously, they could stretch out the red tires till the end. No, black tires, there we go. So, Sweeney definitely going till the end of the race in these sets of tires and obviously the fuel. So, there we go. So, this is going to be the last time, hopefully, we are going to see the number 9. I'm going to knock on wood again, Andrew, well, my commentator's curse is always on point. So, hopefully, nothing happens to the number 9, but it should be the last time we see him on the pit lane.
Yeah, Sweeney coming off pit lane now will maintain. I believe he'll hold on to that second place position. So good stop there for Sweeney as he continues to roll. Curious to see. I think you're going to have to watch Sweeney early in this run. I mean, cold tires have gotten some people, and he's got to get through a certain part of this run on these cold tires to it's going to be more treacherous at the beginning of this run. So now more than ever is when we got to watch Sweeney to make sure nothing jumps up and bites him here on this early portion of the run.
Especially with the lower grip levels on these black tires, you've got to be very, very careful in this these opening stages of your final run to the end. That was your money stop. It went pretty well if you're Reed Sweeney. Now you've got to maintain and stay ahead of Grant Palmer. Grant Palmer, by the way, on red tires once again in car 30. He, though, has to pit one more time. If you're Reed Sweeney, I think you've definitely got a really good shot, at the very least, at taking second place. Matt Chubb, he's taken himself out of contention. Spencer Ray, Jake Walsh, their way back there after issues. Small issues, really, and I think some of it was pace. What's interesting is Adam Creppen has to pit. Reed Sweeney does not. And Sweeney, with the advent of, the way these guys have cycled out each time, has come out, has joined the racetrack, I guess, or is... When Creppen rejoins, Sweeney tends to be right behind him. That's what I'm trying to get at. The delta in the pit lane is actually very, very close. We might see a position change between Creppen and Sweeney when Sweeney comes in, or when Creppen comes in. Granted, obviously, Creppen can go back out there on red tires and go likely pass him. But we might see Reed Sweeney take the lead of this race whenever Creppen does come into the pit lane.
Absolutely. This is a great thing to point out because you mentioned, we could see the number 9 jumping ahead after the pit cycle. Obviously, Creppen's pit stop timer will be shorter because he just has to put less fuel. So it's going to shorten that out. And obviously, you mentioned, Andrew, he's going to come back on red tires as well. But don't rule out, how powerful the Dirty App is. And track position on tracks like this, Caleb, is absolutely king. So if Sweeney comes out ahead after the pit cycles and those black tires are up to temperature, he could have a real shot at taking the victory.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, now more than ever, track position, and that's something we're going to have to watch, is the pit stop that Creppen's going to have to make. You mentioned he's going to have to get heat in those tires, and that's going to take a little bit, whereas now Sweeney's pretty much up to full song now. So Creppen is on pit lane right now. So here we go. This could be it.
This is what dictates the rest of this race. Creppen down the pit lane in car 37 is his money stop, his final stop of the day. Where does he exit? Where does he cycle into things here? Already 21 seconds. That's just when he gets to the box there. The time starts counting in the pit box itself. And the Chevrolet dropped back onto its tires. Let's see where Sweeney comes into all of this. Sweeney's going to be close, but not close enough. He's in the hairpin now, and Creppen will get back on the racetrack here shortly, and will be able to hold on to the race lead. So not quite as close as I thought it was going to be, but still pretty darn close.
Yeah, absolutely. Sweeney's going to have a little bit of an advantage of those tires being a bit up to temperature, but I don't think it's going to be close enough to pass or maybe even challenge Crepin at this time. So
well, Sweeney's back in
point,
this. A small mistake, even just going long into a corner and having to spin the car back around for Crepin, and Sweeney's in the lead. I mean, this is keeping him honest for sure, at the very least.
Don't forget what happened to Victor Miranda yesterday. You know, stuff like that can't happen. You're just taking avoiding action.
Traffic.
Yes, absolutely, just like he has to do right now. So even a bit of mistake, a bit of time loss, you know, avoiding action, and that was really close to the wall.
There was a crunch that we heard from the sim. I think he's okay, but there was a crunch.
Oh, there you go. So threading the needle, you know, stuff like that can happen. You can see this, you know, a little bit of hesitation navigating the traffic. He's going to have to be way more cautious throughout the final, what is it, 15, 16 laps? So, yeah, it's not done and dusted. Absolutely not. As we mentioned, Caleb, time and time again, the race is only over once it's over.
Yeah, and you can't count Sweeney out. I mean, we just saw how close that was for Crepin right there, getting into that corner, and you know, he survived that part. He is on a little bit of cold tires right now, so as we talked about when Sweeney came out, those were important laps for him. This is important laps for Crepin. Can he survive being on these cold tires? You know, it jumped up there and got a couple drivers earlier. So I think right now, if you're Crepin, you just kind of try and relax and take your time. Know you have a 4-second lead. Trust the process and just put together 15 or so closing laps.
So the top 10 now is run with 48 laps. 47 laps in the books. We're on lap 48 of 63. It's Crepin out front by 4.5. Then it's Reed Sweeney, Grant Palmer, Matt Chubb, and Spencer Ray. Your top 5, they are all on the lead lap, but definitely pretty spread out. Dale Weiser, your first car, 1 lap down. Then it's Warren Keith in 7th, Bobby Krug in 8th, and Jake Walsh 9th. They are all 1 lap down, with Blake Galloway joining that top 10 and newly 2 laps down. What we're going to do now is take a quick break, a quick step aside, and rejoin you in a few moments. But don't worry, we're not going away full screen. We're going to go side by side on Pit Stop TV and hear a quick message from our partners at the channel.
Sound Art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it Sound Art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound Art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
Have you found yourself trying to hide your joy because you're unhappy with your teeth? Your smile is the first feature noticed in an interview, on a date, or in family photos. We want you to be able to shine bright as your best self, and our teeth whitening system is the perfect step toward restoring your confidence.
Sound Art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it Sound Art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound Art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, Art never sounded so good.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Welcome back to the virtual Long Beach as we continue on here with round number 1 in 2022 of the International Online Racing League. Race 1, 63 laps in the streets of Long Beach, and it has been, well, a roller coaster. As we go through a roller coaster there with the B-roll, let's get back to the sim and get back to some picture. There are a couple of pit stops underway, but nobody up front at the moment. Warren Keith, I think, continues on. He's actually chasing Bobby Krug. He actually just pitted, it looks like, so he might have been that car that we saw in the pit lane. But what we also saw was one Jake Walsh with a lot of damage and certainly some big issues here. Car 33 in trouble big time, guys, and we'll go back and see if we can find that issue for Jake Walsh. This is really, really big for car 33.
Yeah, this is the big moment for him. You can see threading the needle on the exit of turn number 7. Does it happen on turn 8? No, maybe just on turn 9 once again, Andrew. And if it is there, well, we saw this happening early on in tonight's race, just carrying a bit too much speed. Oh yes, just went a little bit too wide, try to save it on the last moment, but unfortunately too close to the barrier. Luckily for him,
I think he got the wall in 6, and I think he was trying to check the wheel. You saw the wheel was kind of fighting him down the straightaway on the bumps, and I think he got distracted, honestly. I think he was trying to worry about the damage and went a little bit deep into 9 there.
It could be. Luckily for him, looks like only front wing damage for the time being. I don't see the suspension like too bent, so if it is just front wing, it should be a relatively quick stop, and he should be back on the racetrack with no time.
He is back out there now after some extensive repairs. Blake Galloway is coming in from the 9th position. He just gained one of Jake Walsh's issues. Now will drop it to 10th likely with this pit stop. We'll see. He might hang on to 9th. We are back live. This is the good thing here, Caleb, as we work 53 of 63. 10 laps to go here in just a few moments, and the gap up front, it's growing. Adam Kreppen is holding a nice gap and extending it over Reed Sweeney.
Yeah, I mean, the only enemy to Adam Kreppen now is himself. He's extended that lead, and he's got heat in those tires now, so the race to the finish is ahead of him. He's just got to stay patient and close out these last 11 laps.
So just a little ways left to go. It's been a fun race this afternoon. Certainly a lot of drama, a lot of strategy mostly. You can see the temperature in the air. It's 81.1 degrees. The track temp has actually dropped down a little bit, down to 108. We've got some cloud cover, and shadows are growing a little bit longer as the day rolls on. So it's gotten a little easier out there for these guys to deal with. It's certainly not easy by any means, but better at the very least. The winds have stayed about the same, about constant in the lower to mid-teens, and even sometimes the upper teens there as far as miles per hour. If you head over to the race info, though, this really doesn't paint the whole picture. We've seen all kinds of issues. I don't think a single car has been completely devoid of issue yet today. Even Adam Kreppen has had a moment or two. 6 lead changes, though. That's actually a lot more than I think I would have expected coming into a day like today. If you go back to previous races here at Long Beach with the International Online Racing League, last year, for example, it felt like, yes, we had those couple of full course yellows, but Scottless Rambler was always going to win that race. Scottless Rambler not in the field today, and honestly, until the last 10 minutes or so, we've not known who was going to win this race, and now it looks like Adam Kreppen, unless he has his own issue or gets caught up in a lap car.
And that is a big unless. That could definitely happen at any point, at any given time. You know, it could happen down in braking zone into turn number 1. You know, he just has to be cautious at this time. He just really has to control the pace, doesn't he, Caleb? You know, just run his own pace. Doesn't need to push a lot. That gap to second place is absolutely massive. He has the fresher tires, lighter fuel. I mean, it's at this point, it's his race to lose, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, other than, you know, how he navigates lap traffic, you know, if he can keep his car clean and just, I mean, he doesn't have to push it. I mean, that's the thing. You know, there's no need to, I don't think there's a reason to see him shoot through a corner. I mean, there's no reason to drive into one super hard. You have a 9-second lead right now. and then take your time with lap traffic. You know, I agree with you, JP. It's Crepin's race to lose, and right now, as long as he keeps hitting his marks, I don't think there's anyone or anything that can stop him from going to victory lane.
The 9-second gap now back to Reed Sweeney. Here's a look at car number 9 into the hairpin. And Matt Chubb sits in third, which is honestly pretty remarkable after his massive contact in turns 1 and 2. Headed down to the fountain, he just massively caught that outside wall, was actually passing a lap car. And got a little bit, I think, out of rhythm, maybe a little bit distracted to turn 1. Just tore down that barrier almost, and certainly tore off the right side of that race car. Gotten back after it in that third spot, ahead of Grant Palmer, who just pitted, and oh boy, he's going to have some more issues. He was third place, and that was starting to catch my eye, the fact that now Chubb was at the third. This is big. Grant Palmer just been in the wall out of the pit lane. This is big, and if he doesn't have any fast repairs left, this might be his race over. You can see that is a lot of damage, and Andrew and Caleb as well. I'm pretty sure you can correct me, but at one point, Indy cars just give out that too much damage, do they? They just don't allow you to repair the car anymore.
Yeah, that would have to be an Andrew question.
Yes, you can damage an Indy car to the point where it says, nope, too much damage, we're done. It takes a lot more these days. iRacing's gotten much better about that, but let's see the issue here for Grant Palmer. He should be able to get that damage repaired so long as he has a fast fix. If he doesn't, I don't know. He might not be rejoining us this afternoon, but here's a look at things for Grant Palmer. Given the fact that he's not rolling yet, he might be done for the day. Car number 30, does he hit the wall in turn 8? That's where guys have hit it mostly today. I think turn 1 and turn 8 have been the big problems. Some smoke ahead of him at one point. Oh no, it's out of turn 6 and 7. Gets the wall, shears off the front wing, and that's enough to do it.
Yeah, that's enough, and that's the second time we saw a car losing under power, especially in that corner. So it might just be a bump, you know, a tricky bump that you just have to read at the right angle. To hit at the right angle, and if you do it under a certain amount of throttle input, that just might do it to essentially catch you out. And at that point, you know, you're just a passenger, just try to lock it down, you know, avoid at any point in time to hit the barrier. But looks like he returns to racing, Andrew and Caleb. So not race over for the time being, but unfortunately that podium position that he was once in, it's definitely gone.
Yeah, he's out of the podium at this point. He's just, at this point, got to try and hold on to a top 10, which he more than likely will. 7th, he's the highest of the cars, 2 laps down. So just trying to salvage a decent run for the rest of the afternoon, the evening, I believe, and we'll see what happens for Grant Palmer as this race continues on.
He's got 2 seconds and change back to Warren Keith. We'll see if Warren's able to use his warmer tires to catch up to Grant at all. Grant has been so good that I would expect him to hang on to this spot. He has a bit of a connection issue there. Well, as long as his connection holds, he should hang on to the top 10 and likely hold on to position number 7 as well. That was close. Spencer Ray lets race leader Adam Crepin go on by, and now Spencer Ray is officially 1 lap down once again. And it was when Matt Chubb went to lap Spencer Ray that he had his issue earlier on, and now Spencer in the 4th place goes 1 lap down for sure this time as Crepin goes on by. Grant Palmer with more issues. He's just lost the spot to Warren Keith.
Oh, hopefully, I hope that's just newer tires, Andrew. I hope that's just, you know, lack of grip for the time being. But if it isn't, his race is just going from bad to worse. On the final, 10 laps, Caleb. So really not the, I guess, the finale of a race, the ending of a race that he wanted. But if he's not careful, this is the number 9. This is Sweeney. So Sweeney is approaching him at this point as well. So it could get interesting if Palmer start battling again with Keith. Sweeney could be in trouble. I highly doubt it, but it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, that battle could heat up in front of them, but you mentioned how Palmer's day has just gone from bad to worse. I mean, since we got through the halfway point of this race, it just seems like things have gone downhill for Palmer. He was up there running in the top 4, seemed like one of those cars that was going to contend for the win, and it's just one thing after another has made his day worse, and he sits in 8th right now. We'll see if he can run back down Keith, but he's running out of time a little bit with about 5 laps to go.
Well, let's go on board with him then. As Crepin should be bringing us is actually, oh, Dale Weiser just lost a spot to Bobby Krug. That is good for 5th for Krug. But Kreppen should bring us, yes, we've just ticked over to 4 laps to go. Lap 60 of 63 is underway, and it's push to pass here for Palmer down the front stretch. He's going to close in on Warren Keith. No move, though, into turn 1. He's well too far back, and Reed Sweeney is catching these guys. Sweeney won't have to battle with them too hard, I don't think. He's in kind of his own zip code. Azua lock up through the fountain. This could get fun.
This will get fun. I'm pretty sure Grant Palmer definitely wants to get the position back. Obviously, finishing as high as possible is definitely going to be good, and he has to be careful with those pushes to pass. You can see him even trying to look like a move down into turn 6, now turn 7. Don't get too much on the power. You can see him trying to be a little bit cautious, but you can see just that extra grip working to his favor this time, just pushing Keith, throughout the race course, using that push to pass. Once again, you really have to be careful.
Both on push to pass.
Both on push to pass. So, this could get close. That's contact, and Keith goes out of the race. Yes, that's a class suspension.
And that is one of the first times we've actually seen car-to-car contact today. We haven't seen that much since lap 1, but Warren Keith out of it here, and this shouldn't draw a full course. At least I would think not, as he'll get out of the way, and I think he's trying to get righted, but he just goes ahead and tows.
Yeah, he will tow back to the pit area. And I'm excited to see this replay. I mean, what a battle. I don't think either driver was going to lift going into that corner, but 2 cars fitting in that corner side by side just wasn't going to work either, Andrew.
No, it wasn't. It was very, very close. They're both on the push to pass. Palmer's going to activate it pretty quick right there. I just don't know if Warren doesn't leave enough space. I think Warren just doesn't leave enough space, really. I can't fault Grant Palmer. That's a decent opportunity to pass. You get the draft on the straightaway, and I think Warren, out of self-preservation, would have been better off just letting Grant take the position. I know a race car driver is never going to want to just let somebody take the position, so don't get too hung up on that. But give him the line in 9, and you can get him back in turn 1. You're going to have the draft on the front stretch. That's racing for you. 2 guys going for the same piece of real estate that make contact, JP, and unfortunately both of their days altered severely.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially down in the latter stages of the race with 3-4 laps to go.
Yeah.
Drivers won't be just I guess in the mood to just give out a position for the sake of just trying to finish a race. It's not like the first 5-10 laps.
I don't mean to try to finish the race.
Yeah.
If you let him take you in 9, you have the run out of 11 to take him back in turn 1. So it's just, that's really that's classic road racing, especially open. Oh, that was close.
Ooh.
Especially open wheels in a street course when there's not much room to race and go side by side. I think self-preservation there, not go side by side in turn 9, would have done a whole lot better. But this is Adam Kreppen into the final corners of lap 62. And out of the hairpin this time, he will take the white flag, presented by Whiplash Simcams this evening. The first one of the 13th season of IORL competition, and there it is. White flag is out.
Just one more lap for him, just one more time through each and every single corner on racing speed. And that's all he needs to do. Just cruise home, just control the pace, nurse the car home. You don't need to take any risks at this point. So you can lose 8.5, nearly 9 seconds to the guy behind. So just take it easy. There's no point to risk, but plenty of times when we see drivers taking a little bit too easy, that's when mistakes sometimes do happen.
Yeah, he was our pole sitter, and he has driven a wouldn't say perfect race, but out of the rest of the field and the troubles they have, Krippen's been one of the best. So he's got a few more corners to get through, and then he's headed on to the checkered flag.
Down Seaside Way for the final time this evening. Adam Kreppen goes on by a slow Jake Walsh. It's turn 9 for the final time for car 37. And he just kept creeping through the field this evening. It's going to be a big, big win for car 37. With a hairpin for the final time and sporting the Arrow McLaren livery colors, that papaya orange and that nice deep blue. It is a race win at Long Beach for Adam Kreppen in race 1.
An excellent race for him. He's going to open the season in the best way possible. Sweeney is going to finish in second, and Chubb is going to round off the podium in around 20 seconds. But What a season opener we had, Caleb. It was absolutely fantastic. Plenty of stories to be told, and there's still plenty more to be, well, to be had throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, what a first race of the season. I mean, just about every car had their own trouble. Even Kreppen had with maybe his strategy a little bit. So from top to bottom, all cars, an interesting first race. So checker flag waves on the first race of the season, and it delivers for Kreppen in the number 37.
A big win this afternoon for driver 37. We'll get to talk to him and hopefully the rest of the podium in just a few moments. Where do you think Adam decides to do his burnouts here, JP? There isn't a ton of room, but the hairpin might actually be the place with the most room.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Where will he burn out? Obviously, he can risk it and do it on the front stretch, or will he do it down here where you suggested? No, the front straightaway. So it's going to be quite tricky, but with the amount of power that these cars have, you know, if he just mashes the throttle, it should be easy. There you go. We're probably going to see him doing those burnouts soon as he has, looks like another competitor joining him.
That was Matt Chubb backing up, and they do get a 3-wide podium picture here in the International Online Racing League, but I would have expected some burnouts already for Kreppen, so maybe trying to save the race car, I don't know. But they will join up on the front stretch. Reed Sweeney there joining Adam Kreppen and Matt Chubb, and they will get their pictures. And I would think that definitely Adam wants to go ahead and burn that down and celebrate this win. This is a big one, I think, as well. When we see drivers start an early bit of domination in this series, they tend to continue that. But when they assert themselves as one of the best early, they tend to follow up on that throughout the rest of the season. Getting pictures here, then it looks like, for the podium. Is Kreppen going to do burnouts? I would hope so.
Yeah, I hope to see some burnouts, no doubt. When you put together a race like he just did, you've earned them.
Looks like Sweeney's going to pull away. And finally, Adam's going to roll. You know, we don't want to go to our post-race break just yet. Sweeney's doing donuts. Chubb is sitting there, and here we go. Is this it? Yes, burnout time for car 37, at least a little bit, as Sweeney has his fun for finishing second place. And worth celebrating as well, I think, for Reed. And it looks like he's just going to, he'll just go ahead and tear it up.
I guess it's well deserved. He survived the whole race, so I'm pretty sure his team won't be happy to have to rebuild that whole car, but I mean, it's deserved, isn't it? You can see that burnout, you know, happening, the smoke pour in. I'm not quite sure, Andrew, if that's, well, clutch or if it's just tires, but looks like it was all tires, and, well, he's done for the day.
So we'll take a step aside here and be right back to you in just a few moments with, hopefully, podium interviews for the entire top three. Adam Kreppen winning race number 1 this evening at Long Beach. So congratulations to Adam Kreppen. Congratulations really to our entire top three, Kreppen, Sweeney, and Chubb. It was one heck of a way to get this season started. Reigning champion Zach Buchanan, 10th place. And we'll get to our full results here in just a few moments. Don't go anywhere. More coverage on the way on Pit Stop TV.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Sound Art introduces an entirely new way to listen to music in your home. By combining the best of two products, a revolutionary high-fidelity, low-profile Bluetooth wireless speaker with beautiful artwork. Select from a library of artwork or upload your own photos to personalize your experience. Sound Art ushers in an era of invisible, beautiful, and amazing sound throughout your home and redefines your entire entertainment system. The need to reclaim your floor space and rid your home of unsightly speaker boxes that need to be bolted to the wall is now a thing of the past. Our canvas is printed on high-quality permalite by Breathing Color. And select from our gallery or upload your own. Standard sizes include 16 by 20 and 18 by 24 canvas wrapped. Custom sizing is available, as well as surround sound options.
Welcome back to the virtual Long Beach Street Circuit. Fantastic racing through and through all day long here at the International Online Racing League. Round 1 of 18. Round 1, by the way, of a Spring Cup of just 9 races that Adam Kreppen is going to have a big head start in. That first win means so much, and to have that come in the first race of the season is going to be huge for driver 37 and certainly over the rest of the field. So, with the racing out of the way, what this means we can do here, guys, is take a look at our unofficial race results. Usually we'd go into interviews first. Still waiting on drivers to connect. You can see Adam Kreppen, JP. I mean, just the best driver, I think, all night long. 44 laps led out of 63. That's just about, in fact, I think just over 2/3 of the entire race. So, just absolutely stellar stuff out of car 37 tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. He did a fantastic job, and he finished where he deserved to finish, just controlling the pace, throughout, I guess, each and every single challenge throughout the stints as well. So he did a fantastic job. Reed Sweeney as well, with a fantastic comeback race to finish in second place ahead of Matt Chubb. Only 3 drivers to finish on the lead lap, which is kind of crazy to think, but it just shows the pace of some of these guys that have on road courses. Spencer Ray on the number 6 car is going to finish in 4th place ahead of Bobby Krug. Dale Weiser is going to finish in 6th ahead of Grant Palmer, and Grant and Blake both finished 2 laps down in 7th and 8th place. Jake Walsh is going to finish in 9th, and Zach Buchanan, the reigning champion, is going to finish in 10th place.
Bringing it home in 11th, the 88 of Warren Keith. The 04 of Ryan Jerk in 12th. Then 13th, the 22 of Scott McClendon. 14th, the 83 of Jonathan Kraus. 15th, Matt Skipper. 16th, Donnie Staubitz. 17th, Eric McCarthy. 18th to 15 of Cole Fralick. And 19th, Raul Alvarez.
Cole and Raul did not make the start of the race, it looks like. Eric McCarthy only made about 9 laps out there, 10 laps out there, so short-lived for each of those 3 drivers, 2 of them not even making the start of the race this evening. But it was a lot of fun for 63 laps here at the Long Beach Street Circuit. It's always fun coming to a place like Long Beach to begin a season, and yeah, certainly a treat this evening. Thanks for the IORL having us along for this one. Zach Buchanan hoped to get the season started on a right note. It didn't work out that way for him. 10th place this evening. That said, next week at Chicagoland and even the week after at Barber, a couple of opportunities to rebound. This is a look at your IORL Spring Cup schedule, going from a more traditional just run straight through kind of season to a couple of halves and half championships, if you will, that'll link up into one full championship. So a Spring Cup of 9 races between now and May 18th, and then a later on Fall Cup that we'll get to later in the season. We'll talk more about that later on. That will start back up, I do believe, in August and run through October. But this is a look at what we've got here in March, April, and May. 4 races in March, 3 in April, 2 in May, and they're in 3-week clusters as well. We've got 3 weeks of racing to start the season, a week off between Barber and Phoenix, then 3 more weeks with Phoenix, Austin, and Michigan, and another week off between Michigan and Texas, and then 3 more weeks. And I say 3 3 more weeks. It's going to actually be 4 weeks of racing because they will have qualifying that week in between the Grand Prix and the 500 in Indianapolis. So it will be a full month of May for those guys, or at least 3 weeks of May at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This is a look at things, JP, and we're not going to have coverage of every single race. It'll be a partial schedule of this, just like last season, but there's a lot to look at, and I think a lot of great racetracks to look at. I would be happy with just this 9-race schedule for Spring Cup would be pretty cool.
Oh, absolutely. It's really cool because we do have quite a bit of a mix between ovals and road courses, which obviously I love. Obviously, Long Beach, we just had Barber, Austin, Texas as well, and obviously we have the Indianapolis GP. So a few road courses definitely to throw a spinner in the mix on this championship, but plenty for both sides to be happy, ovals and road courses. So a really fun Spring Cup schedule, and I think they did a really, really good job on it.
And Caleb, obviously, you and I were maybe a little more traditionally oval guys. So we looked at racetracks like Chicagoland and Phoenix and Michigan and Texas and even Indianapolis. It is, I guess, a slightly oval bias here in the first 9 races. But if you take the Indianapolis 500 out, it is 4-4. So that mix of road courses is going to be nice. Places like Long Beach tonight, Barber down in Alabama for race number 3 on March 16th. You have Circuit of the Americas, COTA, that I think you're now pretty familiar with from the NASCAR season, and of course the Indianapolis Grand Prix in May. So a really good mix of racetracks, and certainly a lot of variety and a lot of good ovals to look forward to in this first batch.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, the ovals are something that these Indy cars have done for quite some time now. Obviously, the Indianapolis 500, it's historic, but even tracks like Texas and Michigan and these other tracks, you see Indy cars race on. So, like you said, it is a bit oval heavy, but there's also still some really great circuits in there, and it's an exciting first stint of 9 races.
And I'm looking forward to seeing how drivers attack these different cups. Some guys maybe have a little bit more going on early in the season. Maybe they take a few races off, don't worry about it too much, just show up when they can, and then really attack the fall, and potentially vice versa, JP, like we mentioned at the top of the show. There's some different ways and different strategies that they can run the whole season, not just these individual races.
Absolutely, and I guess the only right strategy is going to be which one the champion chooses. Obviously, it's still way too early to even think about it, but I guess, Andrew, you can just say consistency. It's obviously the same word, but it's the one that seems to work. There's no, I guess, real point in being too quick in some races and dominating and barely finishing the rest. So just being consistent, even if you don't win or finish on the top 5, that will bring you a long way into the championship.
Well, what we can do with the coverage out of the way this evening at Long Beach, racing is done and dusted. We can look forward to some upcoming broadcasts here at Pit Stop TV. Now, there is a broadcast live along with us. We actually had 2 this evening, so we invite you to head on after this to the Outlaws Sim Series coverage here on Pit Stop TV and all of our usual places, and catch the back end of their race at Auto Club Speedway. 5 races at California this week, 5 straight broadcasts in the virtual state of California. We had Laguna Seca kick us off with Scar, then we had last night at Long Beach, tonight at Long Beach, and the Outlaws Sim Series this evening at Auto Club as well. And then we continue on with Sonoma Raceway this Sunday. And what we don't have here is that it's actually next Tuesday and next Wednesday for the North American Racing League and Outlaws Sim Series before we go to Hungaroring and the Nashville Fairgrounds. But there is a week in between, a week of downtime for the iRacing.com build for our 2022 Season 2 already in March. So that's going to be a bit different for us to have that kind of off time, but one more hurdle, JP. You're going to be on the call with us this evening, or later this week, at the Sonoma Raceway to wrap things up, and likely, I would say, crown Steve Singer a champion. It's been a great season of racing. GT1 cars at some of the best American circuits, and even Monza, throw that in there in Italy. And unfortunately, that season is coming to an end.
Absolutely. It's really unfortunate, but I'm glad to be a part of it. And obviously, Andrew, I'm pretty sure I hope you're gonna share my words. I'm glad to be part of the journey that helped some of those drivers improve as road racers as well. That was the whole point of SCAR. Definitely helped out a lot of drivers. We definitely saw some improvement by them, and well, overall, it just made me really happy to be a part of it. Obviously, I missed a few races, which kind of really sting on me, but I'm hoping I can be a part of the finale. I will try my best, but well, absolutely, I'm gonna see you there, and it's the end of another journey, we could say.
Yeah, it'll be nice to put a season to bed, as it is always, to crown a champion, but it will be unfortunate to see a season go. Certainly, I think we enjoy very much covering those weekly races or bi-weekly races that we had for most of the season with the GT1 cars, the Corvette, and the Aston Martin. But Caleb, this gives us a little bit of variety to look forward to. We have GT1 cars at Sonoma on the previous and now current, once again, Cup layout, and then we have Porsche Cup cars back on the channel in a week and change on next Tuesday at Hungaroring. And then look at that, Nashville Fairgrounds, some short track flavor for the Outlaw Sim Series and race number 4. There's a lot going on through the month of March.
Yeah, and a lot of diversity with the different kind of series we have and different kind of cars and racetracks. I mean, we're going from Sonoma to the Nashville Fairgrounds. So, I mean, if that doesn't make you want to hop on Pit Stop TV and watch some of these broadcasts, you're just missing out. And if you want to do that, you can follow us on Pit Stop TV on social media, Facebook.com, that's Pit Stop TV, Twitter.com, that's Pit Stop TV _, and then Instagram, Pit_Stop_TV, and then on YouTube, Pit Stop TV 1. So that's how you can stay up to date with everything going on Pit Stop TV and cover everything between Sonoma Raceway all the way to the Nashville Fairgrounds.
Plenty of ways to follow along. We certainly hope you will do exactly that over the course of 2022. For this evening, though, at the Long Beach Street Circuit, that is it. It was a lot of fun. JP, what are your final thoughts? What are your takeaways here from race number 1 of the season?
Well, obviously, it's a very tricky course to start the season. It's definitely going to be a shocker for some of the drivers, but I feel like, it was a great race. It was a nice and, I guess, welcoming challenge to start off the spring season for them on a tricky course like Long Beach. Obviously, we can mention, how difficult it is, the instance that we've had, but I'm pretty sure each and every single the driver that finished or even, attempted to race here tonight came out with a smile on their face, and I surely do hope they did, because it was a fantastic race. It's a great challenge, and I cannot wait to see more of them.
And Caleb, likewise, pretty similar question to you. Second broadcast now for you here at Long Beach. I know we just had 2 in a row, but now you had one in September with GT3 cars for 4 hours. Now you have Indy cars here this evening with the IORL. What do you take away from Long Beach, and what road courses then do you look forward to covering next? I know you're an oval guy out of the deep south down in Georgia. What road courses maybe pique your interest next?
Well, I love Long Beach. I thought that was great. Circuit of the Americas would be on the list. I'm not sure if any series go here necessarily, but being that I'm from the state of Georgia, I would love to see Road Atlanta. That would be cool to cover. So yeah, those are 2 at the top of my list right now.
Well, you'll have to tune in to the North American Racing League later on in the season then, because we'll have coverage from there. And actually, I wonder if we can pull this up. And some crossover here would be great. Yes, here is that Porsche Cup schedule. Road Atlanta checks in at race number 7 later on in April. So a lot to look forward to across the board. We hope you'll join us for all the series that we cover here at Pit Stop TV, not just the International Online Racing League. And similarly, if you're new, we hope you join us for more IORL broadcasts the rest of 2022 as we form up a schedule with Zach Buchanan and everybody else at IORL for this new season of racing. That will do it for us this evening on Pit Stop TV, and we certainly hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. We hope you tune in for a whole lot more, and we just thank you for being here. We thank you for joining us for a couple of hours of racing. We hope you join us for a whole lot more later this evening with Emerson Arden and Devin Kent Zimmerman over at Auto Club, or who knows, maybe Sunday at Sonoma. For everybody here at Pit Stop TV, JP and Caleb beside you on the mic, myself, Andrew Carnelli IV, and everybody else behind the scenes, thanks for tuning in, thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time. Good night.